Okay, I think we're live now. That took a lot of setup time today for some reason. So I'm going to find my video. Okay, good morning, good morning. Let's see. Yep, here we are. Awesome. Can you guys hear me? Make sure we don't have a silent situation going on like last time. Let me just make sure. Looks like I'm unmuted. I see some activity on my little microphone icon. Good morning, Janae. Okay, cool. Hi, everybody. Thanks for your patience. I know I'm late, but I had some technical difficulties, but I'm here and I'm ready to talk about pumpkins. So, as usual, I'm Kristen Elliott. I am one of the registered dietitians on staff here at the Atlanta Community Food Bank, and this is Quarantine Kitchen episode number 11. We are going to talk all about pumpkins. So we're going to talk about how to make pumpkin puree from an actual pumpkin, and then I'm going to make a couple of recipes that use pumpkin puree in a savory way. So we are going to not be following the trend of sweet pumpkin spice things. We're going to make some savory pumpkin spice recipes, and I hope you all are really excited for this because this is one of my favorite recipes to make, and also just to share because it's different from the normal expectations of pumpkin. So before we get into talking about how to make our pumpkin puree, I'm going to go ahead and get my pumpkin chili started so it'll be ready when we are ready to put the pumpkin in the oven. So first things first is, you can see I went ahead and started my onions here. So they're already getting a little bit of brown and they're starting to look a little bit clear. I'm going to add some garlic cloves. I always use more than the recipe calls for. So this is about 4 garlic cloves. You can also use garlic powder in place of the garlic cloves. Or like I'm doing today, you can use both because honestly, I don't think you can have too much garlic. That's my opinion. Especially when you're working with things like canned pumpkin that can be a little bit on the sweeter side. You want to make sure that you're giving it enough savory flavor to kind of overpower the sweet expectation and the sweet in general. So just added my garlic here. I'm only going to cook it for a minute or so. I want to get a good garlic smell out of it. And then as soon as it starts to smell really nice, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my spices. So our spices for our pumpkin spice chili today are chili powder, cumin. I'm using some garlic powder and black pepper and salt. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to use the black pepper as my spicy component. So if you have it and you want your chili to be spicy, you can use a jalapeno or another type of spicy pepper, and you can add that fresh to your chili. But for the sake of making this recipe fit into our 9 ingredient criteria that we follow here at the Food Bank, I needed to pare it down a little bit. So I'm using the black pepper as regular seasoning, but if you want your chili to be spicy, you can add up to 1 teaspoon of the black pepper. And so that gives you the spicy component. It really does. Okay, so I'm gonna add my seasonings here with my oil and my onions and my garlic. I like to do this because it in a way, it infuses the oil with the spices. So a lot of different cultures do this, starting with the spices in the oil. So it will start to smell. It smells so good. It already smells like chili. And we just give this like 30 seconds. We're not going to cook it for too long. Okay. So there's my spices and everything. I'm gonna go ahead and add my tomatoes. So this is 1 can of diced tomatoes. I'm keeping the juice on this. I would typically drain and rinse any canned vegetable that I'm using, but we want the tomato juice to add to the flavor of the chili. So this is my diced tomatoes. Okay. Just gonna stir that just for a second. There we go. All right, and I'm gonna add 2 cups of water. So as I was saying before, we need our recipe to fit a 9-ingredient limit. And we originally used broth for this recipe, but I substituted the broth for water because water is typically readily available for us. So I'm going to use water instead of broth. If you have broth, you can use it. It still turns out really delicious in flavor, even without broth. So this is 2 cups of water. All right. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and add my pumpkin, and I'm gonna use a whisk to whisk it all together. You see how fast this is coming together? So this is, I'm using canned pumpkin for this dish because my fresh pumpkin puree is not ready yet. So I'm gonna use my canned. This is one of the small cans, which is about 2 cups of pumpkin puree. You can also use half of one of the bigger cans. So here's my pumpkin. We'll get that all in there. So this part, it just takes a little bit of elbow grease because you want to get the pumpkin to distribute evenly through your chili base. So we're just gonna give it a good whisk, and you're gonna feel some give. You're gonna feel it sort of like pushing back on you because the pumpkin is so thick. But that's what's beautiful about it. It makes an awesome thickener for any kind of dish that you want to add it to. Okay, so now, that looks beautiful. Okay. I feel like I've gotten all the chunks out of here of the chili, of the pumpkin. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my black beans. So this is our protein component for our pumpkin chili. You may have already noticed that there is no meat in this chili. So this recipe is technically a vegan recipe. There's no animal product in this chili. So now, for my carnivores who require meat, I understand the need for that in your preference. So you can use meat in this dish. You can use any ground meat that you would typically add to your chili. I would drain off the fat to help keep this healthy. And then you can go ahead and add the onions and everything. Start with your ground meat. And then you will have even more chunky chili with your meat. So you'll have double protein. Okay, so move these all out of the way. So what I'm gonna do is get this covered up, and I'm going to go ahead and start talking about our lovely whole pumpkin. So let's see. I can. There we go. Okay. So, that's not gonna work. You can see it, right? You can see my pumpkin over here. I think it's still pretty clear, even though it's off to the side. So this is what is referred to as a pie pumpkin or a sugar pumpkin. And specifically for that reason, it's typically used to make puree to make a pumpkin pie. But we're going to make puree and talk about using it in our savory recipes. The smaller pumpkins like this are going to give you a smoother texture in the flesh on the inside. So once you get to the really large pumpkins, you can technically make pumpkin puree with those pumpkins, but their flesh is a lot more stringy on the inside because they're like extra ripe, if you will. So these guys are bred to be small, and their flesh is not really streaky. So whenever you are going to buy a pumpkin or you've received one at the food pantry, you want to consider how heavy it is. So you want it to be heavy for its size. So you want it to be not super large, but you want it to be heavy. So if this was kind of light feeling, it would tell me that the skin on the inside, is really thin. So it would be mostly air and the seeds and the strings in the middle. But this one has some heft to it. So that tells me that the outer skin part is really thick, and that's where the puree is going to come from. So whenever you are going to make a puree, you can steam your pumpkin or you can bake it in the oven. I typically bake it in the oven. I do not have a steamer basket that fits inside of a pot. So if you boil it, it will become a little too watery. So steaming it is an option. But I'm going to show you the oven method today. So what we're going to do is we are going to start off by cutting off the top. So we're not going to cut too super deep. We just want to cut it enough where once the top is off, you can look straight into the pumpkin. So as with all winter squashes, it is very hard to cut through. So if you need to, you can start by putting it in the microwave for 3 to 5 minutes, and that will soften it up just enough for you to be able to get your knife through it and not feel like you're struggling. So I have not done that. So we're going to see how hard it is for me to cut through it. We'll see. The first one wasn't too bad that I did today. So, okay. So what I like to do is I like to take my knife and I like to cut, let me see, just straight down at the point where I would like for it to be cut. Let's see. There you go. You can see that. So I just like to do that to cut straight through, straight down. All right, so touch the other side. So then, okay, so you see how I'm pulling my knife away from me in the opposite direction of the cut that I just made? That's safety. So be safe when you're cutting your pumpkin. So I've got half of the side cut, so then I'm going to just turn my pumpkin. I'm going to put it back in the same little slit that I cut the first time. Press it all the way down, and then I'm going to push the knife away from me. So this one's not too hard to cut through. Okay, so you can see I've got my cuts, but it's not cut through this side. So what I'm going to do is take my knife, since it's cut, and finish that cut. There we go. Oh, that was perfectly deep. So you can see that the flesh that's connected to the top is out of the way, and you can see our strings and our seeds. So we don't need our top here. So next thing that I'm going to do is I don't always cut off the bottom. I don't feel like it's always super necessary. You can definitely do that. What I am going to do is I'm going to cut it in half this way. So I'm going to cut it in half this way, straight down the middle. So here we go. This requires a rocking motion. There we go, almost there. Okay, this is a beautiful pumpkin. So I was talking about it being heavy. So you can see that this outer section is pretty thick. That's where your puree is going to come from. If it's really thin, you can still make puree out of it, but it's going to cook in less time. So always take a look at this before you start making your puree to see, to think about how long you need to cook it for. So next thing I need to do is take the strings and the seeds out because we don't need those. We can definitely do something with the seeds, and that takes a little extra effort, and it's a next day kind of activity. And I'll tell you how to make roasted pumpkin seeds. Okay. So honestly, this pumpkin chili is done. I'm just gonna let it simmer on low until I'm ready to eat it. It doesn't take, you saw how quickly that came together. It's a fabulous recipe, and it's so creamy and hearty. Okay, so here's my bowl. I'm gonna take my spoon here, and I'm just gonna scrape my seeds out. So right here in the middle where it's tough, I'm going to just put my spoon straight through that and pull it out. There we go. This may seem pretty familiar to you all. This is exactly how you start making a jack-o'-lantern for Halloween. Go. So the inside doesn't need to be perfectly clean. I try to get as much of it as I can, but you don't want to scrape too hard into it because then you're going to take away from the flesh, and that'll take away from how much puree you get. So that is clean enough. Okay. To my other side here, just going to press through that little hard center piece. There we go. And then just scrape out the inside. I want to see that this is it. Okay, you can see me. Second camera is not the best for today, but we're making it work. That came out really nicely, all in one clump. All in one clump. Yeah. All right, I need to scrape just a little bit more right here. Okay, so now to prepare your pumpkin, to cook it, what we're going to do is we're going to place it cut side down in a baking pan. So let me show you mine that are already finished. So I went ahead and cooked these. So you see that I have them placed cut side down. And I like to add some water around the bottom of the pan, enough to just touch the edge, the cut edge of both pieces of pumpkin. And that kind of helps it steam at the same time while it's baking. I baked it at 375 degrees for about 45 minutes. And the way that you know that it is done, for one, you can see that it has sunken in and it's really soft to touch. So that's one way. If you also want to make sure it's good all the way through, is you can take your knife and you can just poke it, and that is like smooth as butter. So that's how you know it is done. So we're gonna flip this guy over. That's beautiful. So that's our cooked pumpkin. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take the skin off and we're gonna put the flesh inside of our blender. My blender is right here. I'm gonna scoot it over in just a second. So all you do, take these guys, bake them, whoops, bake them face down for 45 minutes. There we go. So let me move this here and make some space for my blender. Here's my blender. So there's a couple of ways that you can take your skin off. You can scoop it out if you want to. You can peel it off just like this. If it's done well, it's gonna peel right off. So easily, yeah, just like that. So I'm gonna flip this guy over. Here we go. Peel that skin off. That is perfect. The flesh is not sticking to the skin at all, and that lets you know that you cooked it really well. All right, there we go. Put that back over there. There's my cooked flesh. All right, so I'm gonna put this in my blender. Just like so. You can use a blender or you can use a food processor. Your blender doesn't have to be the strongest blender for this to work. So it doesn't have to be a super fancy blender. Okay. This whole chunk just fell right out, so I'm gonna put that straight in the blender. take this skin off. Perfect. Beautiful. So once you get it in the blender, you're going to need to have some water handy nearby because it's going to be super thick as it's blending up. And you want it to have enough liquid in the mixture for it to move around properly and blend up smoothly. So, there. Okay. Now, let me take this off. Okay. This out of the way. Okay, so pumpkin is in the blender. I've got my water here just in case. I'm just going to add it as I need to loosen it up so it actually blends properly. I'm going to take this little lid off. No, it's been a morning. I'm just going to leave that on the floor. It's not necessary. Okay, power is on. I'm going to start slow. Great. So it's going. There it goes. So what I'm going to do is give it a little mix. There we go. Like a little incentive just to help it move along a little bit. There it goes. Beautiful. It doesn't take much, especially with how soft this was cooked in the oven. It doesn't take much to mix it all together. And especially if you're working with one of these smaller pumpkins, you're not going to have a ton of seeds that you need, not seeds, but strings in the flesh. So literally that is it, and we have a pumpkin puree. Very simple. And I did start with about a cup of water, and I only added about a quarter of a cup just to get things moving along. You don't want to add too much to it because the pumpkin flesh itself has a lot of water in it, so you don't want to add too much. But that's a beautiful pumpkin puree. Okay, so what are we going to do with this beautiful pumpkin puree? We want to make it savory, so we've got a lot of options. Let me clean up my space a little bit here. There we go. Okay, so let's check on our chili here. I can smell it. I smell my chili spices, my cumin and my chili powder. That's really all you need for making chili is a cumin and chili powder and something to make it spicy if that's what you like. There we go. That is beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So the other dish that I prepared ahead of time because I wanted to keep us within a really good time frame is a creamy pumpkin pasta sauce. Okay, I need to turn this down. It's starting to bubble. This pasta sauce is also vegan today, not intentionally, but it just happened to work out that way. So we just, at the food bank, just got a big amount of non-dairy milk. So we've got some almond cashew milk in inventory. And this recipe today uses our almond cashew milk. So this is my pasta sauce. It is very simple and very, very creamy. So I started out with some olive oil in the pan, and I had it on a really low heat, and I added my fresh chopped garlic. So I had it on low heat because your garlic can burn really quickly whenever you add it to oil. So when I'm typically cooking, I wouldn't add the garlic to the oil first. I usually add onion first and then add the garlic so it has a buffer and it doesn't burn as fast. But this recipe doesn't have any onion in it. So I just added the garlic at a low temperature. And the recipe says to let it cook for like 2 minutes, and then you can go ahead and add the rest of the ingredients. But so since I had it on such a low temperature, I left it in the pan for 5 to 10 minutes on a low heat. And so what that did was it cooked the garlic through, and it also built up the flavor. So like the longer things cook, that's how you get a lot of really good flavor. So, and I didn't caramelize them. The word for cooking at a low temperature to get the flavor out of it is called sweating. So have you ever heard of sweating your onions? Some recipes will call for sweating them instead of browning them, because the intention is to not have browned onions in the recipe. So I did that with my garlic. I didn't brown it at all. I cooked it at a low temperature in the oil until I was ready to add the rest of the ingredients. So as long as it's low, you should be good for at least 10 minutes to get some really good garlic flavor. Now, if you don't have 10 minutes to wait for your garlic to cook, no problem. Because we're all about flexibility here at the Food Bank Kitchen. So the same as my chili, I added garlic powder and I added the fresh garlic to my paste, my sauce, because I want it to be really nice and flavorful and kind of mask the sweetness, if you will. It's still there, and it's a beautiful black background flavor. Okay, so this is my sauce. I have pasta already cooked. This is my pasta. So this is whole grain rotini pasta. Gonna add some good fiber. There we go. It's been sitting in the strainer for just a minute. So let me turn this guy this way. Okay, you can see it over here. I'm gonna go ahead and just add my pasta sauce to my pasta. So as I mentioned in the chili description, you can also add meat to this. You can cook some chicken on the side and you can put it on top, kind of like an Alfredo. Or you can add your ground meat like you would different, like spaghetti sauce, for example. So here we go. This is my sauce, and my pasta. So besides garlic in my sauce, I have some salt and black pepper and Italian seasoning. So that just kind of ties it all together. I honestly think this sauce would be delicious with some like curry powder. Curry powder and cumin would be really nice. It's going to be just a different flavor profile, but delicious. Y'all, this is the creamiest sauce ever. It's so beautiful and creamy and easy to make. So, savory dishes with your pumpkin. It can be done. It does not have to be sweet. Pumpkin is going to be an expert thickener in whatever you use it in. So, like, this recipe is water and pumpkin, basically, with some seasonings in it, and it's fantastic. Actually, it has a little bit of our non-dairy milk in it. I forgot to say that. But a quarter cup, so it's not very much. Okay. This is our pumpkin pasta. So for me, I would add some beans to this because I love beans. I would add some white beans to this, and that would be my protein, and it would keep it being vegetarian or vegan. So that's my pasta. And then last but not least, this is a food bank favorite. So this pumpkin chili actually was the first recipe to be prepared in our teaching kitchen at our old building. And it was also the first recipe that we prepared in this kitchen in our new building. There's a lot of sentimental background to this recipe. And we all love it here at the food bank. What I love to do with our partner pantries, I haven't done this in a while because thanks to COVID, we're not allowed to. But I really love doing a taste test at our pantries. And what we will do is we'll have 3 cans sitting on the table in front of the chili. So like they know it's chili because they can see that it's chili. And we say, what are the 3 cans that are in this chili? So the cans don't have labels. We take the labels off of the cans and make it a mystery guess. So the cans are the diced tomatoes, the black beans, and then the last can is the pumpkin. So that is, it's like the mystery ingredient. Can you guess what it is? People don't typically guess it because it doesn't taste like pumpkin. It tastes savory. It tastes spicy. If you add extra black pepper or jalapeno or something like that, and it's not sweet, and it has a lot of fiber. So I could, if you know me, I could talk about fiber all day long. And that is one thing that I love about pumpkin purees because it is going to add a really, excuse me, I'm losing my words here. It's going to make you feel really full, and it's going to add a bunch of nice fiber to your diet. There are other things that you can do with your canned pumpkin. Add it to your spaghetti sauce. It's going to thicken it up. No one's going to know it's there, and you're going to add extra vegetables to the meal. Do you like shepherd's pie, which is usually the ground meat on the bottom, and it has mashed potatoes on top? Usually it's a casserole. You can take off the mashed potatoes, and you can take your pumpkin puree and add some like garlic and onion and salt and pepper and put that on top of your shepherd's pie. I haven't done that, but I've eaten it with sweet potatoes on top instead of regular potatoes. It was fabulous. So that would be a really good way to eat it. You can make a parfait with it and mix it with some yogurt and have it with your breakfast. Or you can mix it into your oatmeal and add some cinnamon to it, and it'll be like your little pumpkin spice oatmeal. So you can still eat it in sweet ways. I'm just trying to broaden your horizons a little bit. Let's see. I had a couple of other ones that I wanted to share with you. Let me grab my mouse. Okay. See if we've got any questions. Okay. Good morning, good morning. Deborah says she loves our pumpkin chili. Thanks, Deborah. We know a lot of people here at the food bank do. And actually, if you're a food banker and you're tuning in, I will be calling you all to eat said pumpkin chili after I'm finished. So pay attention to your email. Okay. Let's see all comments. Trying to get to there we go. Some music chili. Here we go. Okay. Pumpkin chili. Awesome. No questions. Let's see. What else do I want to share with you today about pumpkin? I do have one more savory pumpkin recipe in our resource folder that is linked in the caption. So you're going to find our pumpkin chili and you're going to find our pumpkin pasta recipes, but I also have a creamy tomato soup that has pumpkin in it. So it actually tastes, to me, it tastes exactly like creamy tomato soup from the can. And it has tomato paste and pumpkin puree and water, of course. and some onion powder and garlic powder to like give it those tomato soup flavors. But if you don't have a tomato soup and you've got a spare can of paste and some puree, you can make some tomato soup with it. You can also, oh, this was the most interesting one to me, and I'm definitely going to try it while I was doing research. You can spread your pumpkin puree on your toasted bagel or on your toast and put a little bit of like honey on the top of it and some cinnamon. That sounds fabulous. So in lieu of cream cheese, you can add some fiber and some veggies to your bagel. Okay, let's see. So I also in our resource folder have a few other recipes that are sweet that actually call for pumpkin pie filling in the can. So these recipes called for the 100% pure pumpkin in the can. So it's just pumpkin. Now you can also find your pumpkin pie filling in a can, and that's going to have sugar, and it's going to have pumpkin pie spices in it, like cinnamon and nutmeg. So you can take that pumpkin pie filling and you can make our pumpkin pancakes recipe or our pumpkin bread or muffins, and obviously you can make pumpkin pie with it. Let's see. You can also substitute your regular pumpkin puree for the can of pumpkin pie filling. You just need to supplement a little extra seasonings and a little more sugar just to make it taste the way you expect it to taste. So I appreciate you all coming today for our demonstration to make our pumpkin puree, as well as our beautiful savory pumpkin recipes. I hope you all learned something new. We don't have any questions. Let's see, I haven't been able to find canned pumpkin near us, so I'm excited to try the baked pumpkin method. Thanks, Tori. I have also heard some other people not being able to find the pumpkin puree in stores because it is the season of all things pumpkin sweet. So yeah, this is a great way to do that. I will say that I had to hunt down some pie pumpkins because everyone's selling the giant pumpkins and not so much the pie pumpkins. Publix has them for 99 cents a pound. So I paid right around $3 for 2 pie pumpkins. A can of pumpkin puree can be $2, and you'll get more puree out of 2 pumpkins than you would one single small can of puree. I will also say that if you're in a pinch and you really, really need some pumpkin puree, I was at Lowe's and I saw the pie pumpkins at Lowe's as a decorative item, and they were $4 for one small pumpkin. So if you absolutely need it, you can do that. I don't suggest that. I suggest getting the cheaper can than the very expensive pumpkin or the cheaper pumpkin. Anyway, okay. Let's see. One question. Janae says, what type of pumpkin is the pumpkin that you used? Yes, so it's a pie pumpkin. So it's the small pumpkin like this size, and it's called a pie pumpkin, and sometimes it's called a sugar pumpkin, but it's pie. So it's really small, and you want it to feel really heavy to the weight, so you know that you're going to get a lot of puree out of it. Thanks for asking that today. Lindy says, just read that they planted pumpkin late, so are harvesting late, and combined with increase in COVID baking. That makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing that, Lindy. Awesome. Okay, friends, thank you so much. Oh, what is this? Althea. Most unusual pumpkin that I use that I have heard of. Okay, weird ways to use pumpkin. Honestly, I don't think they're weird. I like these really cool substitutes. So the most interesting one that I found while I was doing research was to use it in place of mashed potatoes on top of the shepherd's pie. I thought that was really interesting and didn't really consider that to be an option. So I thought that was clever. Otherwise, yeah, they're all pretty normal. Just add it to any soup that you're making, especially something that's tomato based, because it's going to help mask the color of it. Add it to your curry sauce or your spaghetti sauce or your sloppy joe sauce to add some extra veggies. It can fit anywhere. Cool. Thanks for asking that, Althea. Okay, my friends, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you tuning in, and I also appreciate your patience with me starting late today. I hope you got some new information on making pumpkin puree from fresh pumpkins and some savory recipes to kind of balance out how much sweet pumpkin spice we have going on in our lives today. So I will see you the first Tuesday of November, which is going to be the 3rd, November 3rd will be our next episode. I don't have a topic to share with you just yet, so it'll be a surprise. I appreciate you all. Please stay well and